Get your t-shirts. So we should begin because we haven't got a lot of time and lots to discuss. So thank you for signing up for the workshop on Herbarium Curation Challenges. We know this is something that we all have in our collections. So we wanted to bring all herbarium colleagues together that we could in this session to discuss some of these common issues and come up with some actions, perhaps solutions, and maybe share procedures of things that we might already have or ideas for things that we already have dealt with. So we set up the room to split you into 3 groups. So you've already done that. Thank you for doing that. But if you're sitting with people that you work with, perhaps mix up a bit, but there's no pressure to do that. So we want to try and get different people together. So please decide on a group speaker, because at the end of this, we will ask you to stand up and speak for a little bit. But don't worry too much, because we're going to record the information written down as well. So we have specific curation challenges, which we have provided with you in your groups. Right, Alison. Right, so go on. What are we going to say? So these are the Mentimeter results. So the QR code we shamelessly plugged throughout the talks yesterday gave us these results here from you. Thank you for adding those. So you can see there's some common threads running through this. So we've picked the 3 most common threads. Alison, do you want to go through those challenges we've come up with? Sorry.
Well, I think you can all read them. You've all got a copy of them. The biggest 3, the one that people commented on most was managing digital feedback. So what you're going to do with your digital collections and who's going to update them afterwards. Training and career progression, because it's what we all discuss quite a lot, like training for curators or training to be a curator, what we can move on to post-curation or how we can improve our curatorial skills. And supplies and equipment. There's often quite a difficulty getting good herbarium supplies in different countries or from different countries. And what would be your dream curatorial supply list? So if you had a brand new herbarium and you wanted to stock it with all the things you'd love as a curator, what would be on that list? And if anybody has any sort of last minute ideas for other things, just to feed into future discussions, perhaps stick them on the wall or stick them on one of your pieces of paper, and we'll collate them all at the end.
Thank you. That's good. Yeah.
Sorry for the question, because I don't want to ruin this, but I have a talk at 10, so is it okay if I hang out for the first?
Of course, if you need to go to other things, it's absolutely fine. It's an open workshop, so it's just great to have you here, even just for a little bit. So
I didn't want to run out and ruin it for my group, so.
I wanted to come to your talk, it's a shame, but we can catch up online. Okay, great. So you're in your groups, you can get started because you haven't got much time. So we've got 3 pieces of paper. I'm sorry we haven't got supports for this, but write these down as best as you can. Nominate a speaker. We've got extra paper if needed. So please share and write down actions, solutions, and known procedures for each of these, and any other ideas that you want to add. There's about 15 minutes per each of these, and we'll keep an eye on the time because it's not an awful lot. And then we would like someone from the group just to share back to the group, the wider group, what you found. Now, all of the groups have got the same issues, so it'd be interesting to see if we come up with the same things or different things. Great. Any questions before we begin? Great. Is there anything we're missing? Okay. Oh, there's a sign-up sheet going around. So we've got a sign-up sheet, and we also are interested to know if you are interested in some sort of curation network and how that might look. So please add your information on the sheet. Thanks for coming. Great. Get started.
Just start with the top one. Go back. So we need to pick our writers. Can be writers scholarly. No problem.
No, Robin, I think I've given you guys.
Supplies.
Choose.
My biggest thing with supplies is I definitely written the supplies down.
Challenges
And I've been like compiling the list, but I have no place to put it. Like, how do I share it with everybody else? That's, like, I have vendors, and each vendor's price, of course, will change. But for like counting taper, I have some suppliers where they ship from free, they have free cost. But I don't know where to. Right now, we're gonna count it to 2,000.
Species list, Brazil.
So dealing with in-country
Two things.
supply
One is our
issues,
head
do we wanna say like a place or
Well,
or something for people to like
And
online
actually,
build?
because we have already done it as a,
I don't know if that's.
we've already got it in GPI, we're not doing anything. So we've already got it. The other one was over to I'm pretty sure we already got it in Eugenia. So does that go to the expert in Eugenia? By some or was it doing the sale of the digital manager just take it face value and this is neither sounds like this. Or does he spend it to do it? Does it go to the curator in America? That's not like a decision as to what happens. Or does it go to the curator in America?
It's really
To do it. And we don't know answers to these questions yet because we've never had really
I just had that with various.
systems.
Well, they shipped me the product, so my university didn't pay them until my new fiscal year, so it came out of my new account.
If you tell them the question is they want 5 years for GPI in place. Actually process it.
What about we have with local, so I've been working on a company called Steadfast, USB down in New York. And he was primarily a paper provider for, big industries, people that were ordering copies all the time. But he's interested in working with the community more if, there's a desire for private packaging. The private packaging is very, it is very. Oh, yeah.
But they don't.
The problem is, if there's contact information on there and not updating it, then people are just gonna keep finding it the same.
Right.
And our data is several different online portals. They're updated from our very different rates, so like there could be.
How do you deal with it? Oh, are you the one that popped up? I've heard, I heard a rumor that someone did that.
So I bought it by completely.
Types of interest.
It's all about 100.
We are doing that.
I'll tip the
So
value.
if we find the types that build wrong,
Yeah. We are just not go in those rates, so it's also generating a lot more types of things. We ramped up our usage, like scanning them and then uploading them, knowing that our data's a little bit off, just one out of it.
So alternative methods to making your own in-house.
Right,
Put yourself on Salon Core and find a way to import from where we're actually delivering this information.
Reaching out for a digital marketing on your own.
Yeah. This is just creating more.
The DIE, our long-term, like the contact that I had at, I don't discuss with
I'm saying you're not sure if the paper's correct.
like 4 years, and now it's like, but it's higher stuff.
This is like extraordinary.
I think we tested some of ours. It's probably, and I was doing
So it cuts and incorporates the package for the fragments. This is for fragments, yeah. This is for, yep, yep. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't dye anything like color. Email from the workshop. So you're gonna send us your die cutting machine, how to buy, and then how to do. And then better. Just so it's like.
Because that's hard to keep the physical description updated. And because we get lists of identifications and then dealing with the specifications, finding specimens, looking for emails. Sometimes I think they could make another name, image, shoot, the data cleanup is also ongoing. And we look at
There's where, like factors and things that are filed like the creation, what the specimens are like up to the image online doesn't actually show how to find it. It's just the other things that it depends on how they have it. But here didn't actually. It's like that, sometimes we just find it, it just takes, takes time to go find that paper to like what's the plant calls
Or it eats into the
labels. Just
some of our historical labels
this is for
were
the
written.
I'm also working with local suppliers, so like
So
for
we
my
no
example was
longer
like
have.
steadfast with them.
There's
Their
where
shipping, I don't
used
pay
to
shipping
have
fees because I can pick it up in the town I
So
grew
you
up
can
from
read
town.
the label
So
by
I
the
don't
whole.
pay shipping costs that way. So if there's like a local paper supply or a local, there was something to look at, like making a plant press, like if you have a woodworker that's local, that kind of thing.
Is an issue.
Getting them to make
I don't know if you remember the old
Yeah.
the ones.
Megan told me that I
They were
back just goes
I really like that.
that are coming out now, to be able to design laser jets.
You have to get up from there, you can do.
Try a laser jet. Test it two ways. One is when you print, take a piece of paper towel and do that. And if it rubs off,
What about collaborations between US institutions and external institutions, like we buy this, I don't know how the finance would work, but like say Rutgers University buys the supplies and just like we would send you film specimens, we send you supplies and then it would be at a lower cost for you to do the full service.
the other thing
It's not getting great
is
cost.
if you have alcohol collections, take a sample label, put it in a jar alcohol label,
That's,
letters,
yep,
if it's
yep,
bad,
we supplies.
your labels, there should be alphabets.
It's almost worth it to. Yeah, so, let's say, like a traveling members. Who is that? You don't have to spell it ad hoc. Maybe I'm the bad writer, because I don't know how to Yep, there you go. Oh, I have to leave before so I talk this content and it's.
It's like, you did research that. We first found
Yeah, and
the
film
laser jet, or something we said, it's not gonna work. Nope, it's just a laser jet. We had no size. And then now, our partner is like,
before it was digitized, and you got some random letters coming back saying this is
it's a company.
It's a
name.
company.
Just saying naturally.
because I know in theory, we claimed we did. I also know it's actually done. And also,
Yeah, it's
what
not.
other around
So
here.
just.
Wow.
We would
Test it. That's all, test your label.
Especially with the revision where it's the name person doing it, we're recognizing it as a different one. Didn't update all the 2 years. Just change the goals.
You're right.
Very peaceful. I was so good. As I got to do some in Japan, outside Japan, how to mount the equipment onto the mounting paper. In Japan, we don't use, sometimes, usually we don't use glue to the mounting paper. And instead, we use some special paper tape. It's a paper with some adhesive glue on it. And using hot gloves.
We also have put a lot of our.
So very easy and it takes no time, takes little time when you put on the paper. It is widely used in Japan. And we don't
Hi everyone, I hope it's going well. You've got a couple more minutes to discuss this topic and then hopefully you can move on to the next issue. Thank you.
Possible solutions, like chase for getting the picture. The idea of having a checkbox on the like data management system is the spectrum of annotated, like looked at digitally. Kind of like just like how do you take those?
What I was supposed to take some
You know what?
Don't throw the data away.
Yeah, right.
You might choose not to do it.
Right.
Yeah,
But don't
Make a
follow
record
it.
on it. Yeah.
It's so easy.
It'll come in handy years from now. It's a lot.
Because when you take
well, I use it sometimes in the novel alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, the person allocated it, obviously.
I published a paper about this, if you come out on the remote because I did a research in the mountain.
My institution, I just did the one paper. Start making
Because
watching
I
it,
am
like
a
also watching the things.
Yeah,
But I was never.
I told them,
It goes past down to me and sometimes it's like for one else.
I have the big
I
red
did
arrow.
it plus no eyes.
sorry to interrupt you. My
That's the high school issue.
but to change something that is industry action, and industry gets to apply the field. And for that, it needs to be based on research. That's why I do the research. I work in the museum. I used to work at Q.
Made a lot of money, and yeah, it would give us the staff members.
So there are hundreds of advantages of just practice. For several reasons, including collect mistakes and, but the most important is to
Tech savvy.
so here with the it was more and more research that executive travel surveys, and so the IL now I used to go, and once it's moved, their runs would have a bad run.
We can get also.
This method is pretty so the new edition of Herbarium as a method of mounting.
If you go out, we do it manually, which I'm not too bad. We have failed, we developed that. So if the intent is the same thing, they just count it.
They're all
We've had some, yeah, we'll put it in like an Excel spreadsheet and that can be injected on the back end.
any supplies that
Take it back.
So many things because That was perfect for them.
Oh, it's worse than.
So I'm Megan King. I'm at Rutgers University, Chrysler Herbarium. I also work with our entomological and our zoological collection, so I wear multiple hats. And 50% of my job is curation of the herbarium and running a giant internship program.
Yeah, and especially now they're sending out, specimens on the cabin of the program for database Yeah, it used to be like it goes over an hour every day. But
Since we're now in
Natural History
what about things like all our mounting is going to be computered up, all the collection managers that we aren't doing skeletal records or acting on and then sending them out to be so it's another subcompany that's based out of China. I don't know the name of it.
We want to build our dream supply list.
We only accept specimens.
That could be very long. Okay, yeah, that works. The non. Alright, so I'm just gonna put like a line, try the non.
So I guess with the extension now, you could take it inquiring.
Maybe there's containers, like Tupperwares for organization, I don't know if that's like our barcoding supplies are like barcode scanner and barcode roll and some like. That's kind of normal, just the composite. Yeah. So maybe like organizational supplies is something that most people don't read about, we don't clear. I would love a double-sided table.
Transaction, you were saying.
We got 1 or 2 minutes again. Are we meant to switch?
Okay. Training and career progression, suggestions for lectures, training and information.
Oh, no way. We found that like every institution has that database is the same specialty. So like there was so many different which one to ingest and
Do we want to focus on internally or out like at community?
I think
Yeah, still pretty cool. So community share.
We're having new additions in supplies. The United States.
Well, so there's a society for herbarium charities.
So
And
no extras.
yeah, there's a herbaria listserv.
He's running out of paper and then our herbarium supplies.
But their email listserv,
Guy
they're
retired.
not, like,
This
we
coming
could
up,
get
so
on
we're
like.
having-
I don't wanna say website because I've heard problems negative about websites that are, static. So maybe like hit and or just more. But there's gotta be like, I found a way to search through the NH, all the natural history collections listserv. there's a way to do it in Google where you like have to use some characters in the search to like find it. But like we recreate video all the time, like what do you use for mounting paper has been asked for the last 6 years, and then the same people are replying like we should just have that in the spinach with. So like one place, right? One central hub for information, like maybe even if you post it to the listserv, maybe you don't have access to an email.
People know about.
Yeah.
These roots of communication.
So hire staff, we need to not only share the community, but we also have to share where promote resources. The spinach wiki has great work. So that's why we need to get cover Discord, so.
There's no solution that I heard. We got the same problem at Smithsonian. We don't have the employees. We can't hire. We have no ability to hire someone, so we bring in contractors and volunteers. But there's a lot of training you invest all your time, it's taken away your risk work. Train them, and then they're finished.
Yeah, it was like a disaster.
And they move on to another job, and then you have to start over again. So it's the revolving door of training.
People mostly, when they go there and stay there. How long do they stay there in a place?
Because the other thing I think that
I'm Smithsonian 40 years.
universal
Is everyone just not
of stuff.
Someone else in your country that's done a ship. So is that what you're doing about?
Working with actual suppliers, Charlie was telling me about the questions from the working with them, but might not
Get them to do
There's a bigger market.
So another thing that I was I'm on the networking development committee for spinach, and a lot of members that chose spinach, like, we want training opportunities, like spinach doesn't have the money to supply, a course, and then where do you pull the host the course?
we could do something here and
There's
this discussion and that's
And that came up too for us, that is about doing something like that, like a demo camp.
conservation,
Yeah.
specialists.
kind of like, in the end, they kind of like smaller variables, so they partner together, make a bigger order, to be able to afford
We do have a, for Australia, we do have a list.
Like research projects, half the time, like NSF grant, they'll ask you to develop something, and then where does that develop thing go? You go once, and it goes nowhere. Have a place to put it on.
Hold it.
But they don't know what.
We also had no idea what they were coming from, so they dropped the
Where, like, you know, and it's like, how do you teach them?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How do you do all of those columns?
Yeah. We had those folders announced like everywhere.
What are the workshops?
We have bulk orders, instrument maker, which is a cost issue for the storage.
There's
Ours actually in the lab, very modern.
It was very hands-on.
That's our else on the paper, so we've got other areas.
Feel like a reseller.
I get a lot, so when you find it, that's just
Yeah.
Help them
but then I don't want to be a scientist.
contact their work through the So it's like more relationship between technical people. So more politics, I yeah, like an interchange of skills. How you all
I've been allowed, I'm good.
We just did this big inventory of our app stores where we got rid of a lot of jars.
Usually just like really, aspect that from our really environmental tools for printing out bits lists. So when you do have a bit of that,
I found something too
you just
interesting
print
when
out
I
right
was
there, you
like
can put it on, and
she's like, yeah, I could totally give you this form. Well, instead of having to email Megan to get the form, what about encouraging all of us to talk like recently recruited this QR code and say, here's all the download PDFs. Unless it becomes a data sharing thing where you're like, random person can access.
We started making our fragment documents. We've gotten a machine, my colleague Erica, is in another group, but we've got the machine and she's
and we.
packets.
Okay, now I want to machine.
It's a dyeing machine, yeah. So
Presentations online, like I'm remembering when I get back and all of this, I just sit there and fold on through volunteers to
So I'll put you in contact with Erica, that's the way she advertises ourselves.
When I first started working here in Smithsonian, I would take people around. What I would tell them is, in the beginning, when we started, we collected on the sake of collection. We would go to different countries and different places, and we just collected, and our focus was just collecting. And then at some point, we started to dance. But now, this day and age, people always ask, why did you? Yeah, they're like,
Where are you putting up this manual?
Yeah,
That's the thing, like, so where do you put it?
when I started.
Like, where, if you could show everybody this room, where would you put it?
That's what we did.
Well, that's what we're, there's a question. Because I have a QR code on my presentation that goes to a website my boss created. Like, there's any PDFs on there yet, but there's supposed to be some of the documents that I talk about is supposed to be on that. You know, you go to the QR and there are downloadable documents. Just a Word document.
Yeah.
That has gum on the side, so you can get questions.
Distribute samples. And I know sometimes sending things through an email, like the institution blocks, you're getting that email because of the document for viruses, so like sending documents to the listserv doesn't always work.
In the wrong kind.
Have a website.
They would, if somebody could do it. That's the other thing too, is like, you have the website, who manages it, who keeps up to date with it, and then when that person leaves, it takes it.
It's like,
I mean, you used to.
Oh, GR sidewalk. Yeah. So I've been using that for years, but I didn't know it was an alternative. I just thought I had to be on both.
I love finding a chair that like suck in.
Contact information. Right.
Very small
What would you want to give them?
Yeah.
Repot, thank you. Permits for shipping.
That would be nice. There are areas.
Yeah.
Shinoda.
Put it back in the ground.
It's like the Terra.
We are, we have a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're having to like.
If there was like a linking code for like an individual.
That's the part of our.
No.
So how does it, I haven't been on here.
It doesn't be like, yeah, so they ask you.
So when she was at a very component was to ask why was the one has
there was still
The more we do step out.
Yeah. And you guys is so you have the worldwide. She could put yeah, so GR cycle is like re-registered institutions. You like put your contact information, your address, you're on index Herbarium, so it's like that. And it also has a there's better connection to digital collection of these, whereas index Herbarium and not working constantly. Yeah, I'm trying to get information from one another.
Make sure to have the standard, have standard. That's part of our law.
Recently, my colleague was in my place, posted this on cards and like shock absorbing ones, and I'm like, well, it's a requirement, so it was that. Institutions, so it's a requirement that they teach biology, perhaps the claim for
I guess that's
I needed a video too, that cue of mountain perspective. So I watched that, and the biggest problem I had with adapting most of those methods was that my students will not know what parts to take off the plant to put the fragments back in. So I was like, nope. I was like, I'm not even gonna bother. It's like,
How are my people in all kinds of things?
my institution, my interns were like, you want me to cut what? I don't wanna cut it. Well, like, you gotta trim it a little bit to make it fit on the shoe.
But then also
because I don't know how it is, but usually you have a thing that says mounted specimens, and then there are curators, like it's our teacher. So then what the curators will lay out all the specimens, and then the plant mounters will just mount. Or how it is in practice, because of course the plant mounters don't know what to show with side.
Right.
But I would say that which is great, because we are not expertise
And
on
everything,
CFO,
right,
everything.
people are coming on.
And
did you find a place that
it's
has
fine working so many years, and I'm
I
not
used to
so
have
many
read
years as
anything
well.
like
There are
online,
groups
I
that
got to have that.
I learned
They're thinking about stopping
we
it.
sometimes take a higher risk and mountains.
This
is how people read is why we mountains like that. So then we share. It's right, for this group, this is here, as in most important feature, so you need to go there like this or whatever. So then, they come with their expertise, they say, it's by our experience will be unstable, or the glue will damage. How you do that, or when you put glue and
So our problem is that my mounters change every 3 months. Because they're students. So every new semester,
that's why they.
I'm the only paid staff member.
You need to choose a method that you can reverse really.
It's not one of those. So, yeah, but now I'm trying to get them legally less. So I don't, so I tell them, there's flowers, don't every single flower. Do a couple weeks, and then we try to sew and work like every time we can to sew and that's gonna be
This is to
Yeah,
subscribe.
because there are things that sometimes we struggle
To
with.
subscribe or unsubscribe via the web, visit
There is
that.
only one browser, to do mount that or to do the cache there. And I think that if you work with
It's not up to
you will represented in terms of specialists for their
Oh, We looked down, we have a huge elevator because we just got It's yoga.
I'll try to stick it in like
So really quickly, on the last topic, one thing we just started doing at Cali County is the botanical garden, and we don't have a curator. Museum asked us, I am going to touch the tours. We're always going to be directors of our high school interest.
Yeah.
And this year they asked for middle school.
But we do
So
have
that's
a
like
little
11, 12, 13-year-olds.
And that would be nice, I think.
And we thought,
The problem that I have is getting young,
they might not be that interested in all the details.
But there's programs about society and society, and then have more.
You need to read that they're set.
And they love it. Come and tour and they're like at the high school, they're done.
Go to a new school and.
Okay, so it's my job. I'm gonna go learn how to dance so I can pull them all in.
Kids were no interns at the botanical garden, so they were interested in plants and they like to see where. Maybe we'll see.
I think the information doesn't speak the law. We're really lucky farmers have our senior, I have protocol specialist, Dr. Punchie Donnie, who's in house. It's only been like once since I've, maybe twice since I've been there in 12 years, he does like a big training on, and what kind of picks are and so we want him to be able to do it more frequently, but about millions of dollars to make sure he is, or 55 days a year. Yeah. But to have like lectures about pictorial, like develop standards and foundational principles for incoming staff members, refreshers for staff
I was querying post digitization during that's wrong.
Yes.
So you have to digitize for collection.
How do you do that?
Digital person. Okay.
Yeah, but we had professional botanists
Oh,
and
is that
information,
okay.
we work on that group, and we have people who are
Collections, digital and physical.
we're not sure if we
Yeah,
should
but
trust
tell
it
them
or.
that they can see that you have it, now they wanna request it, they wanna. Send me some.
They get access to our images through a
See it, or-
Symbiota portal. We have a portal in California for all the California herbaria, it's called the consortium of California herbaria. People can make comments.
We've seen the labels and taken values, right?
Yeah.
Like, I might own stuff that tried to do wrong and
Sure.
yeah, my specialist, guy was saying he
What
had
does this actually?
identified
I mean, what would you
something
say?
was 3 different things.
What I mean,
Well, yeah, how many would be false? What's the likelihood of?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like to see
Yeah.
So that,
researchers
just a
collection techniques so that they don't rock up and go, oh, it's okay, I'll just do that. And then,
That's still happening.
and they have no idea how the plans are supposed to or even the length of the permit to collect.
We usually do put it in
They need to be on
there are
I guess
the determination only to show up on the portal, so you don't see the whole annotation history. Unless you can see the sheet of images, which we will have the images, but once we take one picture, take another picture after 5 more annotations.
If you saw the photograph, you were at Megan's.
And
then
Yesterday, and she
because
talked about,
Really helpful.
this destructive sample.
and
It
organized
showed that collection, there was no annotations on that collection, and that
perhaps
well,
then
they're
so
not
that
photo
you don't
quality,
have to
like,
how many
Yeah,
and then collate all over the place.
and then we reach out.
That is our
Samples,
secret.
they
So is it managing?
Before we started saying, you have to come in, and it's just not, they were sending us grocery lists. We were
always
online ecology plans, and I was running around the neighborhood, that's why I said to them.
And they're really creating a lot of like.
Because you need to-
How can you go? I'm always the one that like to
And
ask.
they would like,
Just
okay,
so you know, you're
sure,
limited
they
to
would
your
refile
special
it.
herbaria.
Now they can't refile it.
No one
We have
knows
that
that.
15
TV
years.
instructor.
Now we have to refile it. And it's hard because like our China types is changing somewhere else. Never have that seen.
Within 30 days, asked for that.
30
question.
days?
Within 30 days.
When they come to the family, we have to
Managing the results.
Yes, the outcomes.
It's so making sure whatever it's digital system is, and your management system can contain, can handle future adaptation. Right. Yeah, so it can't be just like
It's that bit of sponsored dress, which honestly, like, ideal, and bulk
I'm trying to work with that, but
And also extract the risk.
there hasn't been yet
put it out to the world.
any
Yes.
real taken over. So I'm not sure how that will be, because
Authorities
yeah,
face regulations.
to reflect on the physical.
Put it out there, and then you get feedback from people saying, oh, that's my great grandmother outside. I live in this, so you get that, so you get all of this extra. Particularly for the, looking at where you've got the various specimens list, where you're trying to get the location on it, and quite often it's simple to say, well, so you talk about right. You need to have that local expertise.
But how do you upload that data? Because our problem is that most of the names are not in the system,
The
so I
other
cannot
problem we
go.
have with annotations is when
Or
specialists
names
don't
that we
agree
haven't
and
had
have
in the
issues.
and
So we have one
The other
currently
thing too,
for
if I don't
adjustments on
accept
it.
next person the name of just
So, I'm not gonna name names, but we had two people that had been collaborating
Yes, I do
together
think.
and writing
And I'm doing
everybody was
your
happy.
digitization.
Then all of a sudden, one person and started annotating a bunch of our stuff. Well, they're published, we know them so well. Now, here comes the rub. Here comes the requirement. So now we have all this wrong, they don't know what they're doing, and now we've got to fight on it. So
Just so they know
instead of us rushing out and re-annotating those documents, let's wait till the arguments stop, and then we'll make a decision.
So they just gotta follow through the
But if you're an expert, I would go with you. I'm not gonna say, well, I don't know if you're right, it's taking the right amount, so I'm not gonna write it. I'm gonna say, I understand. If you got a young student coming, we got young students that are signing and coming in and annotating their specimens. I'm gonna go with that. You have enough time to sit down and take questions on that specimen, I'm gonna go with that. I don't know what's wrong, or they're wrong.
Yeah, so in
Donated in the past like 10 years, haven't kept it specimen. That's why
but the agreement just come,
Like the post is going now, I'm gonna accept it without the permit.
Which is
Just like, we'll just make a judgment call and maybe like
so that this can
or we need to remark that.
but you will have to do the condition and the rest might not easily reflect.
I will give you a sheet that I have not found. It's in the collection where watch out.
Just so we questions that at the end of the year to the so using like what we refile
That is when the booker classification or and secondary. But of course, having I like one of the issues that really whatever you call that, a barcode or whatever the name
Got about 2 minutes left, people, so start summing up your issues.
In that group, I asked a few people who were working away.
We don't have that. It's just like they are wait for a job.
These are good species. I'm just gonna leave them where they are then. And his annotation labels are on there, so you should see that you can call it that, but I'm not. It's he did, broke right on the shield that you would use in I'll take that too. I'll even a big one.
There's no guarantee. There's no film, right? The long-term proof
We've never, but almost never been permanent positions.
Smithsonian usually
Right, everyone, that's it. Thank you for working on the issues. Have you got your notes? Quickly scribble them down, the last comments. Quick. Okay, so the next step we're going to do, right. So we're going to go through each of these and just summarize the key points that everyone has come up with. So could we have one person from each group talk about each of these? So we start off with supplies and equipment. Which group would like to go first? I'm closest to this group, so who would like to speak in this group? Or you can all speak. You're the nominated speaker.
Oh, goodness. Now it's translating. Now I'm rereading. Well, we had a variety of people talking about issues with procuring supplies, the quality of supplies and equipment. So there were a lot of, we spent a lot of time stating problems, but not a lot of time coming up with ideas for solutions. But it was, we didn't yet get to the dream curatorial supply list. But there were some things that were brought up in our group that we didn't quite think about. So trying to get hold of methylated spirits or alcohol for alcohol collections in countries that don't have alcohol readily available in a number of ways. Those of us who've been on expeditions and been able to pop into a liquor shop and buy some drinkable spirits and use that in a pinch, but that's not available in every country. We didn't have any necessarily solutions for that. We had issues with there not being enough vendors, putting all kind of your eggs in one basket and then that vendor going out of business. I don't know how we get more vendors out there, but that's an issue. Everybody talked about funding for supplies, not having enough money for supplies. And then newspaper, the ongoing issue of diminishing newspaper when you travel, and just that always being this kind of looming large. Will it go away? What would we do if newspaper became unavailable or much more rare where we go? So again, no real solutions, but lots of discussion.
Excellent, thank you. I mean, that's a good start. So which group wants to add to this conversation? Great, go Hannah.
Now, okay. Well, Megan and I were just saying we have tons of newspaper at our institution, so we still have people that come in and give us chunks of newspaper that collectors can take. So finding some way to share among institutions, like some kind of network where there is, we're lacking this supply. Does anyone else have an idea, have a network, have a supplier, or have a backlog that can be shared? Yeah, we talked about also suppliers going out of business and just the challenges of when, we at Harvard, we tend to order in bulk. We have some storage space. We don't always have enough. It's a high cost and it's a high cost of like a footprint of where to keep them. But then by the time we use up the supply, we have to find somewhere else to get it because that company has gone out of business. And that's definitely a challenge that we face. Someone mentioned that smaller institutions may do one bulk order together and then share among them because sometimes these suppliers require a really large order and a smaller institution on its own may not be able to afford that or have this place to store it. And we just also talked a lot about like labels and, at US they have now a printer to make their own fragment packets, which is fantastic. But it's like every institution has a different solution and different needs. And just the price of herbarium cabinets is going way up. So trying to replace like wooden cabinets or older cabinets that are not pest safe, they've just gotten outrageously expensive and having to pay to dispose of the old ones if they're not, if they're biohazards. So definitely a lot of issues, no solid solutions, but I think that just having a network among like institutions to discuss these issues and to share if needed would be a great solution.
Great, thank you. I mean, it's just good knowing that this is an issue clearly across all institutions and good to discuss it. So does the final group have anything to add to this?
So our group, pretty much we are on the same track with everybody here. And, we had the same idea about, if somebody could bulk order and then, it's mostly when collectors are sending their duplicates to an institution where they normally should provide paper for that institution. So it's kind of almost a way that we should be doing the same thing for each other if we need to help each other. In-house methods for creating our supplies like the fragment packets, that's been a major, what do you call it? What do they call it when they can't ship? Words right now. Okay, backlog, or yeah, so back order. Thank you, and that's the word. So when there's a major back order and you have to wait, and we talked about how that it impacts our finances when we have to close out at the end of the year, and if we can't get it, so that creates all these issues. So if we can just get things in time, that's really the problem. And then working, because we all know that shipping costs are outrageous for these supplies, for freight, to find a local supplier. But if we have to help each other, I think that's mainly what it's going to come down to in the end.
Thank you.
Sorry, 1 second. So Megan, who was here, had a really great idea. She, how we all have our vendor lists in an Excel spreadsheet or something, and we keep track of costs and where that supplier is on a website. We all have our own, so we're kind of all reinventing the wheel every time we recreate that list. But if we could have a place where we could share that information so we could know who to go to instead of trying to find and search for the supplies, like we can have it all in one spot.
Yeah. Even if somebody has like a really good deal on something we didn't know about, yeah.
Oh, sorry, is that it?
This is really great. It seems to be the common thread is having a network to share this information. And this group actually have mentioned a network already that's already working. I don't know if you wanted to say something about that.
Sure. Who in here is on the Herbaria listserv? It may just be mostly North America right now, but we were finding other colleagues didn't know about it. So if agree, tell me if you agree, but great place for asking basic questions. It's mostly, I would say it's not research heavy, it's mostly curatorial. It's saying, I have a spare cabinet, anybody local want one? Or I can't find paper, Amazon seems to be back ordered, anybody have extra? Lots of, suggestions about glue. Sometimes there's questions about individual specimens. Sometimes there's some questions about plant ID, but mostly it's curators talking to each other and collections managers. So we can share the information on how to get on that listserv. I don't know if there are any specific requirements in order to be added, but I imagine if you legit work with collections, nobody's going to keep you off. There's another one that is NH Call or NH Calls. It's for natural history collections, same kinds of things, but just broader collections than Herbaria. I think it's very useful, and it's probably the most useful for new collections folks who are don't know where to start and have really simple questions. And the community is very friendly, and they'll help you out.
Shelley, there's a microphone just there with Hannah.
Thank you.
So yeah, NH Col is the spinach listserv. So hopefully everybody is on NH Col, being here. I think the Herbaria listserv is run through the Society of Herbarium Curators. So another great organisation to be part of. So I highly recommend you join up. I joined up as a life member because it was only $100 at the time. So I just went, yeah. But yeah, it's reasonably priced and good community.
Great, thank you. How are we doing for time? Okay, we need to move on, but what we've done is we've made some notes. We've got your notes. We're going to take pictures of those, so please keep hold of them, and obviously carry on that conversation into the break as well. And we've got a list of, we've got a sign-up sheet. I'm saying this now because I will forget at the end. So please add your information if you'd like a summary of the results. And we've asked another question here. So I'll leave this at the front, so do come sign this at the end. Right, moving on to training and career progression, suggestions for lectures, training, info for curators. Who wants to start? Different group. Let's go with the group at the back.
Okay. Yeah, we did get sidetracked talking about permitting a lot, and but the need to educate if we have active collectors for an institution, making sure they know about the need to have proper permitting. Because that's not always been a thing that's been disseminated, and then people will be surprised if we won't accept their specimens because they didn't have permission. We also talked about having nomenclatural training on site. Some institutions do it more frequently than others, but to just make sure that incoming staff and even long-term staff are getting refreshers on the basics of taxonomy and how that can help them work in the collections. Funding is obviously an issue, and a lot of us discussed that there's not any clear progression within our institutions due to funding and due to open positions and bureaucracy around those. At HUH, we have a lot of digitizers that are term positions, but then we don't have a lot of permanent positions, and when you get into one, you don't want to leave it. So it's kind of challenging for progression when there's just not open positions anywhere. And yeah, and also telling visiting researchers, giving them proper training on handling collections and making sure that they follow the rules is always a challenge too. I don't think we have a standard way of handling that, but it might be helpful to have a handout that we give to researchers, or just like a standard list of here's how we expect you to behave. We're all adults, you can be on your own in the collections, but this is kind of the code of conduct of handling our specimens that we expect from you.
Great, thank you. Anything to add from this group?
Oh, yes. So we had the same, we didn't go down the career progression because we figured that's, like, as they mentioned, very touchy subject. So instead we focused more on training within our community and how that's the conservation presentation kind of showed that, you know, there's a need for us to help each other in these realms with people who don't have the resources to hire a conservator. So if, like, Q could have a weekend at Q, you know, and have us all go there together and in person, because we found that, yes, you can do online. We said, you know, online training, you know, via Zoom, but actually being there in person to see the process and interact with each other actually is way better, as we are seeing here firsthand. And just you know, if institutions kind of we did like a network of trainings, right? So okay, you know, I don't know, like yearly, right? So next month we'll go, not next month, that'd be cool. I just really want to visit all your herbaria. Like, that's my goal in life, is to visit everybody. But you just did that, you know, you went around and, you know, probably I know what you gathered, like, you took back.
Yeah, so not everyone here is probably aware, but a few of us from Kew got to visit, have been traveling around visiting herbaria to learn about the herbaria. And it's been really interesting and eye-opening to see how different collections manage and curation, but also seeing everything that we all have backlogs and that we all do things in slightly different ways. And actually we've taken, and I need to send the reports back to the institutions, apologies, but we've taken some of those things and gone, we can bring this to Kew. Things like having an emergency bin in the collections for emergencies, we don't have that. So it's like little things that we can make changes with. So visiting other herbaria, even just locally, is really good. But anyway, back to you.
Oh yeah, so like doing that, we're training. So like we went to Berlin spinach and we did the paraffin mounts for the glass jars, and that was a really useful thing to be able to do at spinach, you know, go to a lab at the Natural History Museum and do that, you know. And so if workshops like that, like if a Natural History Museum at spinach, you know, or a museum provided that kind of training, I mean, that was like, it's still stuck in my head to this day about, you know, what I learned there. So just offering trainings in person, we can meet each other, we can see what other collections are doing, and taking information back to our institutions to make things better. Yeah, and I think, so there's also the clearinghouse that we mentioned from GBIF, that if we could provide our training manuals, our protocols, our documents on one central source, instead of having to contact each other every time, you know, oh, I heard you have this type of manual, can I see it? Well, you know, like Megan in her talk had the destructive sampling form, you know, but, you know, Megan mentioned like, contact me. But then if 50 people have to contact her, so she's sending 50 emails out. But if there's one place where she could say, like, this is the clearinghouse, this is where it is on our web, you know, on their site, go there for these documents. If we all were able to put our documents with, you know, covering sensitive information, because I know we all have some sensitive stuff, then like we wouldn't have to do that back and forth. And, you know, sometimes emails get lost and you're just like, oh, they don't like me because they didn't reply. But it's like, no, the email just got lost. And so just having a place to go to find these resources.
Shelley, are you going to say spinach?
We do have a spinach wiki where all of these things and pointers and links can all go. So we do have that.
We talked about perhaps putting things like that on Zenodo so that they get a DOI and then they're citable.
Well, yeah.
This is really interesting. I want to keep going. This group, sorry, did you go through your list? Yeah. This group? Anything to add?
So we, excuse me, were looking at information for curators, really, and we learned from my two colleagues here from Sandakan that in Southeast Asia they have a really nice informal network group. So if they've found that they've got something that's really relevant to their particular country climate, such as pest outbreaks, you will informally go to your FRIM, your other counterparts within country, and ask them for advice, which I think is a really lovely support group. But it doesn't really go beyond that point. It's not formally written up, or we were just thinking that maybe taking that to the next stage, and how do you publish this sort of stuff or share it more widely for others to be able to use. So I think that's a really good idea. And I think that's one of the things that we were talking about. Anything else? Yeah, the network thing that we've already mentioned. Yeah, that's it.
And for those who have Facebook and still use Facebook, if you're not aware, there's a group called Herbarium Junkies. Some people use that also instead of an old school listserv via email. There was also a bit of discussion in this group about, though we may not want to, participating in the pipeline of training, so opportunities to engage high school students and maybe even junior high, those younger middle school level students, primary school, to get them engaged in just the topic, if not just botany, to help then address the issue of not having enough trained undergraduates or not finding master's students or not being able to fill your actual full-time staffing positions that may become open. So we've heard that research says that around the age of 10, young Americans at least have already decided whether they like science or not, and that includes plants. So that does point out how young we have to get them engaged in science and botany.
Thank you. Oh, this is a very interesting discussion. Thank you for adding your points. Yep.
We have
Is your microphone on? Just checking. Doesn't sound like it is.
Okay. We have been in the past 4 or 5 years having students from the museum studies from university, and they come because they need to learn hands-on practice across the museum. So we published projects there, and they come and spend nearly 3 months with us. So they learn from very basic things and all the why we do this, what is database, why we barcode, absolutely everything up to mounting and digitizing everything. So, and they spend these nearly 3 months almost every day. So we get a lot of work done by them. And some of them are now our staff, part of our staff. So, and that is how we are getting new curators, or how they are learning that.
I have one more thing to add to this idea of career progression. There's often not anywhere to move up to because we love our jobs and we stay there a long time and camp out. So if you're not already doing so, I would encourage you to take some of those lower level positions, entry level positions, take them out into the field, give them those small perks, give them those experiences that'll encourage them to stay, even though there's not, they may not be able to move up into a managerial position anytime soon, but keep it rewarding in other ways. So take them out into the field.
So we have just a minute left.
Hi. Talking about groups, I come from Ecuador, and there is a large WhatsApp group of Latin American botanists. So if there is anybody interested, let me know. I can share with you the link to join. Actually, I need to ask the administrator too. But if you want it, just let me know. It's with a WhatsApp. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you. And something I should mention at Kew with internships and getting people into herbarium to get experiences, we found obviously the longer the internship, the more worth it is, because obviously training takes a lot of time, it's resource heavy. But we recently had a PhD student request to do a 3-month placement in the herbarium in curation specifically. And this is a new thing because research councils are encouraging PhD students to do on-the-job training, and they get these 3-month placements in the UK. And we didn't even advertise anything. We had this request from someone who's coming in September, which is fantastic because it's bringing someone in across disciplines, but obviously this is a PhD student working in taxonomy who's interested in curation. So again, we get to train someone in curation, but also they're in research. So yeah, it's different things.
Is it paid?
So it's paid for by the Research Council, and it's full time. Yeah. I know it's a UK thing, but maybe it will transfer. It sounds like a great thing they're doing to get that on the job training. Yeah. But we do have success with museum study students, and our economic botany collection has success with conservation students. So they will send off an object to be conserved. So that's an avenue to think about university student projects. Yeah. Okay. So we're moving on to the last topic. Sorry, running a little bit behind, which is managing digital feedback. And perhaps this group can go first because they haven't yet.
Okay, thank you. So we talked about how digital presence for a collection is going to, well, does lead to an increased number of requests for sampling. And that new determinations and updates now have to happen in two places. So the physical one needs recuration and the digital collection needs its digital update. And also that it can be a greater task to manage the results of a physical visit, because visitors can't properly complete their visit. Tell me if I'm getting this wrong. As the database needs to be updated, and also any new names that need to be put in, they might not yet be in the lookup list because they haven't been published yet. So we talked a bit about how Q does use the latest name and filed under name. And then we had a bit of a discussion about whether we could target the distribution of duplicates. So work out where best to send things.
Great, thank you. Anything to add, is that? Great, good. This group, anything to add?
Yes. One thing we talked about was when there are taxonomic battles over the taxonomy of a group, that you may need a moderator to work out when to actually annotate the specimens and update your electronic records, and when to just sit on them and wait until the battle is fizzled.
I wonder if that's going to increase with digital access because you think they'd be faster.
That's what we were thinking. And then having enough staff to handle the workload after digitization, and who will be tasked with updating these electronic records and making sure there's an annotation label on the specimen and that everything matches. And I think that was it. We also talked about updating the determinations digitally. Who does that and how is it done?
Yeah. Anything to add, final group?
Yeah, so I think that we all are in agreement about what the problems are, what the concerns are. We talked about some collections management systems that have a checkbox that can indicate if the new determination was made by just viewing the digital specimen, not the physical specimen. And even if we're not recognizing the name change or the new identification, not throwing that data away. So adding an annotation or a determination to the digital record with a note of where it came from, just even if it's not going to affect where we file the physical specimen, keeping that information for the future. We also discussed the issues with the different portals and places where our data goes online. So like JSTOR, where all the types have gone from the GPI, now Global Plants. They have a different pipeline for getting data. We have to push it out to them, and it doesn't always match the GBIF data. And that is a problem. The updates are really challenging to do. It's really kind of technical to make changes to your data that's on JSTOR. So it would be nice if they could switch to GBIF. And yeah, we just talked about like having a digital curator role would be great. Someone that's job is to focus on these updates. And also some institutions require digital collecting information when accepting new specimens. So not accepting specimens that don't have an Excel spreadsheet, which will then save time for getting them into your system. And I think that's all. Okay. That's all.
Excellent. Right, so we've got 5 minutes, and so what we're going to do is write up all these points that we've talked about today and send them around, and all the ideas that have been discussed, and have a think about next steps. But has anyone got any things they want to mention before we close today? Yep.
When we have visitors at the Smithsonian, and sometimes they can do a few identifications, sometimes they do a lot. What we try to do is, so it's not any one person that's burdened with updating and making sure that the collections are refiled, is if you're kind of the person, the point person to host that visitor, then we kind of say, okay, you take care of their annotations and update EMU. And that way it gets spread around to several people, and it's not all just one person. We had a visitor come in, worked on the mellostomes, so I kind of took him under my wing because I just shifted that collection. And he annotated 1,200 sheets. And I had those sheets gathered up. I had him lay them out on the table, didn't have him refile them. And I had those annotated in EMU and refiled within 3 days. So it's just a matter of just focusing on that. And then I just went back to what I normally do. And so for 3 days, it was done.
Two hands up. Megan?
Well, I'm going to be changing the subject a little bit, so if you want to answer that.
Yeah, it was about visitors. I wondered how many people do ask for like an identifier for visitors when they come in, that they get an orchid so that we can say we know exactly who made the identifications, who made the debts. Yeah.
I fail most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to sign. They either don't want to sign up, or they've already got one, or but yeah, it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that in the context of the relationship with the projects like Bionomia that are associated with GBIF, so that you can see who did what, who collected the specimen and who identified it.
Is this something we could put on a visitor form before they visit? Because we, at Kew, we've got this book, a research visit to the herbarium, and we have these questions, and it'd be a simple thing to add the information, something to think about. Yeah, they may not fill in, but it's a way of maybe trying to gather that information before.
No.
Microphone for people online.
We have on the database recorded this, so we can see who named that species
But can you see?
online.
Yeah, but can you differentiate one A. Smith from another A. Smith?
We try to use the Brumit and Powell parties, so they have their own acronyms, kind of abbreviation. So yeah.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Megan?
So this is going back to the supplies. One other thing we talked about is there are suppliers out there for paper that might not be a herbarium supplier. And so if we can build a community saying like, yes, we will buy your paper, they might switch over to start making herbarium paper instead of doing other archival papers. So we need to also let the suppliers know that we have this need.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for this really valuable discussion and comments. I think it's been really good to talk. So we, like I said, we'll summarize everything, write everything up and send it to you, but I think it was really useful just to talk about these things. So before you go, please sign up if you would like to have a copy of the feedback. We've got the forms up here. Could you also maybe help us in putting the room back to how it was with moving the chairs? That would be really helpful. Thank you. Huh?
They have a data carpentry workshop.